Hello, hello, hello. Right, I wanted to do this a lot earlier today, but you know how it goes sometimes. Best laid plans don't always go the way you want. But let's get cracking. Let's not waste too much time. Right, so yes, hello, and welcome to another Force Awakens, Force Hunter drawing. Let me change my glasses. I always forget to do that. Where do I put them? Right. Okay. These guys I've got on would be fine, but they're not as strong as the other pair, which have magically disappeared. Oh well, we'll have to work with it until I can find out where I've gone with them. Never mind. But yeah, sorry about that. So it's been a while since I've streamed, and I felt definitely this week with Star Wars. May the Fourth Day be with you. By the way, May the Fourth be with you for those who are Star Wars fans. I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to do a Star Wars related drawing. And if you remember, about a year ago or 2 years ago, I can't remember how long it was now. In fact, I can tell you. Oops. Yeah, last year. Last year, I did something called a Force Hunter. And I had a choice that I'll show you in a minute. And I thought it made sense to kind of revisit that same drawing that I did with a new version of him. So, just to sort of show you where I was at. So let me move this out of the way. These were the 6 concepts that I had. Excuse me, initially. These are the 3 different types that I had, and come up with different sort of styles and everything else. And this was the one we chose last time, which was the manga style. So I'm going to choose one of these other 5 remaining. I've got an idea which one I think I'm going to go for. But I was going to redo one of these characters going forwards and making a slightly different version of him. And moving this aside for a second, this is the one I was. In fact, let me move this camera up a bit. Now, I always worry about moving this camera up because it always ends up not looking right. So wait for the screen to catch up. Catch up. So just make sure you can see it on the screen. The internet's so slow sometimes. So behind. Okay, there we go. Oh, need a bit more vision. Okay. Just want to make sure you can see what I'm looking at. Sorry, there's a bit of a lag, so I do apologise. But basically, this is what I did. I did a manga style version of this character, which I was quite happy with actually, and it was definitely an improvement on previous. There you go. You can see it now. So you can see, definitely improvement on some of the anatomy drawings I've done in the past. But I was still working through the kinks and working out how everything fits together and stuff like that. And even from doing this, I've learned a lot from just anatomy style. So today I'm going to be doing one of the other characters in my own style, but I'm going to change the pose a little bit. I've got the same. I don't want to do the same pose for every single one. So the first thing that I'm going to do today is changing the pose. So let's put this chap aside for a minute. Over there. Flip this around. So we've got a nice big border side. And put that aside. Now I think probably the first thing I probably need to do is to choose a pose that's different. So let me leave that there a minute. Choose a pose that's very different to the one that I've got currently. So I'm going to get some additional paper just to do some rough ideas. In fact, tell you what, I'll use my special funky Star Wars one. Simply is a Star Wars related drawing. I love this thing. It's cool. Right. So anyway, and in fact, in here you can probably I can show you the original concepts. These are just some rough drawings, but I think I need to make this just purely Star Wars stuff. This is me learning how to improve on my anatomy. Just some little rough drawings. Okay, so these are the original concept ideas I did when I first did this project. So I'm going to find a spare bit of paper, and let's try and get some slightly different designs going on. So let me shift this over a bit so I can bring that in. Okay, so bring that in, bring that in, bring that in. Right, get my pencils. But I hope everybody's feeling well today, and I hope you do like this video. If you are watching for the first time and you do like this and you want to see more, please feel free to click the like button and share this with anyone that you think might enjoy this. And if you want to see more of this sort of stuff going forwards, just click on the old subscribe as usual, so that you can be notified of any new videos that come up. And if you're really keen, just hit the little bell button so that you get an actual notification saying I'm live or I've got a new video coming out. And if you look around tomorrow, there might possibly be a video tomorrow. I'm not going to say. Maybe there will, maybe there won't. You'll have to wait and see. But I did release a video earlier today as well, which was a museum piece where I went to Star Wars Identity. So hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. Anyway, that's that bit out of the way. So the first thing I'm going to do, as I said, I'm just going to do some slightly alternative poses. Right, now for the reveal. This is the one I'm going to go for, number 2, because I like number 2 and number 4 are probably my personal favourites, apart from the manga one. But I think number 2 is the one I think I'm going to head on to. So I'm just going to do some, not going to do detailed like this. I'm just going to do some very rough alternative poses for this character. So let's get on with that. In fact, let me get some light. It's starting to get dark now. I wanted to stream a little bit earlier, to be honest, but as I said, didn't quite work out. Anyway, right. So let me try and think here. I'm just going to try and think. One of the biggest things I think I'd learned or made a mistake of is I never put the stomach in the lower half of the body, so I always never really completely fulfilled everything on these characters. So that's why I never got the proportions quite right. So, but hopefully I've learned a few things on that. So this is incredibly rough. It does feel like the same pose a little bit. I'm just trying to be a bit different. Okay. Now the purpose of the Force Hunter is that they have some form of power, they actually have Force power themselves, which enables them to be more susceptible and recognize when there are when there are people, other people with Force powers. So this one I don't like already, and so that's how they do it. And basically, the Force Hunter is basically like a bounty hunter for Force-powered people. It doesn't exist in the Star Wars universe. It's completely a random invented idea. But the idea being that this guy, he's hunted So he's hired to hunt out people with force powers, whether it be for the Jedi, whether it be for the the Empire, or indeed some other nefarious purposes. But that's basically what this particular character's role is. So he's a hired hunter with no other interest other than, hey, I've got powers, so I can get money from others. Okay, so I think the other one is very similar to. I say it's very difficult to do something different because at the end of the day, I want him to show that he's got a force power. But at the same time, I don't want to do the same kind of pose as the previous ones. Do you know? Now that's slightly different. It's kind of got a running pose a bit. Because I do want to have the saber in there somehow. Okay, so what other poses? I need to be probably a bit more simpler with my poses on these. Kind of like this pose actually, this one here, with the saber facing downwards. It's a bit different. I'm trying to think what other. So I'm just trying to think of what's a different. So I don't want to copy the same pose because otherwise it would be all 6 pictures that will look quite boring doing the same thing. Because what I was thinking of doing is once I've done them, is have all 6 in their own sort of montage of collage of different characters. I do like this one, so I'm gonna put a tick on this one. I like that one. Trying to think what else. Now this one I'm thinking could be a dual purpose one. So he's got the powers there, so he's using his powers to make the lightsaber more powerful. I don't know. And arches back a bit. I kind of like that to a degree, but I don't think for this picture. But it has got me thinking. So arch back again. I like the arch back idea. And I like the fact these arms are forward. But perhaps, a bit like they do in the Attack of the Clones, where he's got his saber out, but he's also excuse me, he's also using his force powers as well. I think we're starting to get some idea. I think we're starting to get something, some kind of idea here. kind of liking this one a bit as well. So I'm just trying to think of what's the best level here. In fact, let me zoom in a bit so you can see what I'm doing a bit more. So I'm trying to keep this camera so it's not, so you can still see what I'm doing. Right, the light isn't quite clear enough, so let me see if I can get better lighting. 1 second. I will invest in a lamp at some point, like a proper lamp, one that works well, or at least a diffusion, a diffuser for the one that I've, the little light that I do have. Yeah, I need both lights. Okay. So I'm liking this one. Definitely starting to feel like the whole arch back is working for me, but I just need to make that just a bit more powerful a pose so it looks. Trying to work out, because I don't want to start doing the big drawing until I've got something that I feel is there. All right, I definitely think this is the way forward. I think this is definitely the one we want to go for, and he's got his saber in the back. Okay, so this is one we're going to go for. I think this is the best one, the one I like the most. So let me just shift that there. So I'm just going to get the pose right first. Once I get the pose right, then I can come back and do all the details of the character. Now, whether I'm going to do it all in today's session, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so what I need to do now is bring this camera back up so you can see the whole page. So wait for it to catch up before I do anything. Wait for it to catch up. Come on, catch up, come on. Right. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let me put this cushion and fit my back. Right, so it's arched. Now I don't want to make him too big, but also I want to make him so he fits. I'm wondering whether I should do him sideways. So I'm just trying to think. Because of the pose, whereas the pose before, he was standing more upright. This one's a bit more bend down. So I wonder if I should just turn him around a little bit. All right, well, let's see. So we've got my baked bean body. So let's start with that, the old baked bean, or jelly bean even. That's just so I've got his arched back a bit. Yeah, it feels too big already. Wow. I think I am going to need to flip this around a little bit. I think I'm going to have to do it this way. Purely because I don't think I'm going to have the whole body shape in there. So the baked bean is going to move down here. Or the jelly bean, whichever way you look at it. So it's a jelly bean body. And the first leg is down here. The neck and the knee is down here. And the second part is here. Right, let me move this camera down a touch. It's so hard to get the right angle on this thing. Despite your best efforts, it's not always the easiest. Right, I'm not going to worry about the shape of the legs just yet because I want to work out this. Normally I try and put the shape of the legs straight away, but this time I'm going to wait until I get the pose right first before worrying about where the calves and things like that are, because I do tend to do that a lot, where I just try to, you know, get that in a bit too soon. And I think that's one of the things maybe where I fail in. I just need to get the initial bit. So now, is that arm too small? Feels too small actually. Let me try and make him a little bit larger. I'm also trying to be conscious of proportion. Again, this is something that, if you look at the previous one, for example, that I showed earlier, proportions weren't 100%. So I'm much more conscious of proportion than I used to be, and I'm trying to be a bit more balanced in everything. Now, on reflection, I think the shoulder's going to come out here, I think. And then the second arm there. And the old missile forearm. And I'm just going to put his hand like that for now. I'm just positioning everything. Which means his head's going to be about here, I think. I'll soon know if it's right or not. There's his far foot. And the other thing as well is where his lightsaber is going to be. So I think probably there. Okay, I'm thinking the pose is more or less there. Proportions need to be sorted first. So okay, right, so let's sort the body part, the torso out first. So let's get the torso looking a bit more accurate first. Now, bearing in mind this is his back, so I think the knee is going to be about here, I think, give or take. I think the calf is going to show roughly there. Now, without putting too fine a point of it, his groin's going to need to be in there at some point. Okay, so the head doesn't quite feel right, so I'm going to just try and get the head shape a bit better. I think the skull's going to be back here more, I think. I'm using a 4H at the moment. I think the mouth is going to be there. The nose is going to be round about. It's going to be roughly here, I think. The eyes sort of there. Yeah, I think that's about right. Okay, so let me get rid of this because I think this now is distracting and it's taken away from what this is going to look like. Okay. I'm really trying to restrain myself from doing too much detail too soon. Because it's so easy to get straight into the detail, and you've got to really, at the end of the day, you want to make sure this works before you start putting any kind of heavy detail in it. Okay, I think it's starting to look good. Starting to get there. And I do feel the arm is in the right place, which is good. Probably just to bring it up a bit more so it's a bit straighter. Now, again, this is always the tricky part, is getting that this part of the arm kind of comes out and goes in again, and that's always, it looks weird when I look at it, but it is how the arm, if you look at your arm when you stretch it out, it does have that look, but it's just trying to get it to work with how the arm actually feels. Okay, so So far, so good. I do think the torso is just a little too large, I think. Feels just a bit too, I don't know. It feels a bit too podgy. Let's see if I can refine that a bit. Now I'm not going to go too heavy on the abs like I did on the other one, or at least I'm going to try not to. But I definitely want to make sure that that part of the body makes sense. Now this is where it gets tricky. It's fitting the arm correctly on the back of the shoulder. I think that's about right there. I might be wrong, but I think. Oops, didn't want to do that. Didn't want to do that. Yeah. So I was trying to make sure that it matches the other side. So I don't know how much of this you can see. Hopefully you can see enough. I think it's working. I think it's definitely getting somewhere. Just want to make sure that thumb looks like it's actually on the outside of the fingers. That's proved to be a bit trickier. Okay. Right, so the saber is not quite in the right place, but we'll sort that out in just a moment. Now we'll put the line through right through, because we need the handle as well. So the handle is about that thickness, I think. Okay. Now, still not completely satisfied the head is the right shape, but I'm happy enough to move on to the next stage. So I'm going to go down to a 3H now and try and bring a bit more detail into the actual structure of this guy. Just try and refine it a little bit. You might notice I haven't put any major detail in there yet. Like I said, I'm just trying to restrain myself from putting too much detail too soon, and then find it's all looks wonky and wrong. Like the head, for example, there should be a little bit more dome on there. I think a little bit more rounded at the back. Okay, so there's the stomachy bit there. And those little shoulder 8 bits. And then the buttocks. Unfortunately, you have to have buttocks, but most of that will get hidden in the costume anyway. I think he's coming on all right. He's getting this slowly. As I said, I'm trying not to put too much emphasis on, abs or whatever. Just want to know that they're in the right place. Okay, so let's bring this shoulder bit out now. The thing about that anatomy is, particularly if you're doing something more realistic, you have to really just spend a lot of time learning, relearning, learning again until you really get it. It's an ongoing process because you might have to draw a character from a different angle than you would have thought you would have. So it's one of those things you have to constantly just keep learning. For example, when I was doing hands and things like that, I did realize that when I'm doing something to my hands, the bottom half of your hand is more or less straight to your arm, whereas the top half kind of comes off at an angle, which I hadn't quite realized. Now at this point, I'm only drawing as if he's got a tube in his hand, but it will eventually change into an actual saber. But this is just to make sure that it all fits and works. Sorry, I'm in concentration mode now. I always get quiet when I'm in concentration mode. On the front of the leg, there's a very subtle curve. Don't know if you've ever noticed that, but there's a very subtle curvature on the front. Now, ideally, I didn't really want this to go off the page, but it's fine. As long as the pose is right, that's all that matters at the end of the day for me. So the knee is roughly there, I think. Now what I probably will do is, before I put any detail in, I'm probably going to scan this in, just because it's a different pose and it looks a bit more unique than previous ones that I've done. So when I'm saying ones that I've done, other people have probably done this already, but for me, I've not drawn a pose quite in this format before. So I'm quite pleased how this foot is already looking though. This foot looks quite decent already, so I'm quite pleased with that. So hopefully I won't have to do anything with that. Right, now this is where I'm not kind of struggle a little bit, because I want this hand to be quite thick, because it looks too feminine. Looks not quite right for some reason. Bit better, I guess, but right, I'm not sold on that hand so much, so I need to tweak it a bit. It feels, I think it's that first finger. The thumb looks all right. I think the thumb is okay. It's just that finger that's doesn't feel right. Okay. Right, that feels a little better. because fingers are all sort of set into different segments. Right, that's feeling a little bit more as it should. It's just the baby finger that's proving to be a bit trickier. Okay. Right, so now we've got that. I think I'm fairly happy with that pose. So let me do a quick scan of this one. Give me just a second. Be right back. Wait a moment. Wait a second, nearly there. Right, okay, we're back. All right, now I had to do that because if I didn't do that and record that pose, whenever I need to do that pose again or something for a different piece, I'll regret it because I don't have the reference. Okay, right. So I'm going to go into what's called an F. I've never heard of an F pencil before, so until I got this set, but we're going to go with it. So now I'm going to try and add some form of details on this guy. Okay, so I think the first thing I need to work out is where the eyes go. Now, the head shape was slightly off, so I'm going to try and fix that before we move forwards. Because the eyes are going to be here, so the top of the skull is going to be kind of more round here, isn't it? And again, I'm just trying to work out where everything goes first before starting to put any kind of detail on him. So his nose would normally be about there, I think. And so his eyes would be somewhere here. And the mouth would be somewhere there, I think. So I'm trying to work out something. So it's not sitting right for me with me. Now that I've got put the eyes and stuff like that, something about the head's not fitting right. So before I do anything, I think because of the angle of the head, I think I've got his head too far back. So let's see if we can fix that before we put any more detail on him. So this is again something I'm learning is, you know, is not to rush in there with all the detail and get until I've got the proportions and shapes and everything else right. Because once I start putting on the clothing and the uniform or outfit or whatever, that's when the flaws start showing, and it's like, but by then it's too late. So I think, for example, like his cheek is going to be about there. And so he's going to be wearing a mask, but I want to make sure that at least the mask fits the face properly. I'm actually kind of liking this face, actually. I think his ear is going to be around about there, I think. Right, so his head's still too wide, I think. So let's bring it in just a little bit. Right. I think that's it. I'm going to take a quick snapshot of that as well, the face. A bit more of a close-up. All right. Okay. Right, let's start putting some detail. So now he's got a Mandalorian type of visor on him. So let's start there. The thing is, I've taken the reference on the picture, so I've got all the main details I need. And he's got that part there. Okay. He's got the outer rim. That wasn't a pun intended. Okay. And this particular chap has some kind of pipes on his face. In there as well. So it's just peeking through. Got some kind of emblem or whatever on there. Now he's got his little Boba Fett thing on the other side. So even though Boba Fett always has it, they all have it on one side. Maybe he's just a bit rebellious and has it on the other. And again, because of the angle we're looking at, you can have it the other end. Okay. Right, so here it's got some form of armor. So I'm not going to worry too much of the solid detail just yet. In fact, it's all in sort of a V-neck type format. I don't know what it is, but every time you try and do the far side, it's always tricky to get that far side right. So his neck is going to be down here. So I think that perhaps that's not quite in the right place. And just remembering, and I'm adding this in, but Mandalorians have this little thing in the middle, so I think I should keep that aspect. Right, music stopped. 1 second. There we go. Okay. I have also just remembered that Mandalorians have their helmets kind of come out a bit. Of that kind of curvature in them as well. Okay, right. trying to get this chest piece looking like it fits his body properly. Not quite fitting yet. Okay. Now with this chap, you remember I said about not focusing too much on the, the abs or whatever. This guy's kind of got them hidden a bit anyway, so I think it makes sense to not have them. But in this instance, they're kind of hidden regardless. Okay. So again, this reveals things about the, the body shape. Which means that this back part is too far up, I think. Then he's got some kind of strap or whatever back there, linking that top part. So let's thicken his neck out a bit as well. Same with the shoulder. All right, so now I can't see the back arm, so I'm inventing a little bit of what is possibly there. So some kind of additional armament, or armor rather. And not quite sure what to put. Actually, they have normally these Mandalorians do have those little shoulder pad things, don't they? So let me try and see if I can put something that at least looks shoulder pad-ish on the back part of his arm. Right, so I'm just going to shade that in just temporarily, just so I know there's a bit of a gap there. In his uniform. Just trying to make his helmet a little bit more Mandalorian looking. Okay, he's coming on quite nice. I think he's coming on fairly well. Now, this guy has got some kind of hack on his side. I don't know what that's for yet, but it definitely has something there. And I might as well make it match on the other side. Best I can. This is some kind of belt type thingy. Belt. Obviously, you need some form of codpiece. Not that I'm trying to be rude, I think, it just needs it. Needs something. In fact, what I might do is just add. I know I said what I'm going to do. Just add a little something to sort of indicate that there's some kind of molded shape on his chest plate, on his what do you call it, stomach plate. Okay. 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 So now the back of the leg. Now his leg's got a bit of a cutaway. So let's try and incorporate that into his cos. Into his kazi. Now I know I'm going over the lightsaber here, but it's just so that I can, see where everything's going. But I can still see the lightsaber, so the lightsaber's still there. And then just an additional shape. And then something I always like to seem to always do, and enjoy doing, is add these little grooves in the costume. It's just something, just find it always makes it look just that bit more interesting. I feel like when you get those biker jackets and you have the different segments, which are obviously there to protect you. So I suppose you could argue that this is protecting the back of his leg. Okay, and he's got something on his knee. So maybe just give it a bit more of an angle on the knee. So it's probably more that angle, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bit more that angle. Now this bit's interesting because it's an unusual sort of design. So there we go. Right. So his costume here is split into two bits. The annoying thing about doing this though is when you have to do the other side, you have to do exactly the same. Then that can be a bit, got to repeat it. That's one problem when you do comics. You know, you do comics, you have to draw the same picture. If you do detail on a character, you have to do the same detail on a character every single bit that you do. Right. Now, what I have done, there's a little bit of an extra element to this part of the uniform. It's almost like there's a little add-on. It does add a bit more interest to the actual design. Okay, so I've got to now do the same curvature on this. So now, so this is what I'm saying about drawing the same design. So I've got to try and keep the same design I had on this one on the back part of his leg. There we go. Right, I think that's it. Is that right? More or less. I mean, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it's my, it's my design. So I'm not following anyone else's kind of idea on this. It's just purely my invention. So I can chop and change as much as I want. Because as I say, I'm not copying. I'm not trying to repeat somebody else's artwork. Other than the fact that there's a Mandalorian feel to this guy, but he's not necessarily a Mandalorian. He might just be somebody that's happened to find somebody that's a Mandalorian who has force powers. It could be as simple as that. Okay, so here's that same part of the knee section. Only difference is there's less of it visible, or trying to make less of it visible. I think I've pulled it off in terms of keeping the design similar. Ooh, gonna sneeze. Yes, no, maybe. Right, just need to work this foot out a bit. Because although the foot's fairly happy with it, I think it's not completely gelling with the shape of the character. There we go. It's coming on rather nicely. Right, the back of this neck feels just a bit too thick. That's a bit better. Okay, so on this arm, he's actually got some other weapon. And I think potentially the arm is just a tiny bit too thick. So I'm going to just thin it out just a touch. So he's got some kind of thing attached to his arm. And I think I better put another Mandalorian type shoulder thingy. think maybe his arm was a tiny bit too long, but you know what? I'll do it in post. Actually, saying that, if I bring that a bit forward, might save it. Might save me from doing that. I don't know if that worked, but might have done. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it worked. It is interesting, the human body, the anatomy, because you learn so much every time you draw something, especially when you try and draw something in a different way. You always learn something new about the human anatomy. Well, at least I find that anyway. See, that feels much more accurate at hand. Brilliant. Okay. Now, because it's a weapon, I think I've only put one on the original artwork. At least I think I've only put one. But I think I better put the second one in, because obviously if he's going to have that attached to his arm, he needs something that's going to keep it secure. Because he's got some kind of rocket launcher or whatever on his arm there. Try and keep the shape of what it is on there. Right, I'm gonna add some artistic license on this. Okay. Is there anything else I need to put on? Well, I think since he's got an armament there, I think it only makes sense to have one on this hand as well. Again, I didn't put it on the original, but for somebody in his position, he's not going to have some kind. He's going to have some form of protection. Do you know what I mean? He's going to have something to keep his arm secure and safe from harm as much as possible. All right. Okay, so I think I've got the basic shape of this guy. So all that leaves now is to finish off the lightsaber. And for this, I think I need to get the other one, because I want to keep the same saber. I want to keep this same design. That's the one thing that the constant on this particular version of this piece. So that's so this is going to be on this side. The only difference is I'm going to just refine it a little bit more on this version. Okay. Now, this part's going to be tricky because of the shape of the end of the saber. Although I think I've managed it surprisingly. Didn't really think I was going to do that. Okay. No, this is good. This particular bit, I was sort of inspired by the old spark plugs. You know, when you get the in your cars, the little spark plug. In the sense that it ignites the actual saber, as opposed to it just being all encased inside. So that's where the inspiration came from that. Okay, so this comes out from here and here and down there. I'm just going to do the basic shape for now. So maybe make it a bit thinner. Because the idea being of this is it's a pistol as well. Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm going to do one more level of thickness. What time is it now? Oh, it's 9:30 almost. Starting to get a little late. It's cool. It's all good though. 1 second. Right. Right, so let me shift this out of the way. So I've got my previous reference, my big guy reference. Oop. All right. Let's see what we can do with this guy, and let's see if we can at least give him something more substantial with his features. So now I'm really going to start refining it a little bit. Basically, the bottom line is I want to outdo what I did on the last version of this. I'm even going to change the visor a bit so it looks a bit more Mandalorian in style. Because I don't feel it quite captured it on the initial run of this. Oh, that feels more Mandalorian. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's more like it. So let's bring this pipe back even further back. This is the beauty about doing it on pencil, because you haven't committed to the full design yet. And in fact, I just realised this actually comes more from the head. So it actually comes right back. Let's get rid of this line here, so I'm not distracted by it. Oops. That's it. Now I'm trying to keep in mind as I'm doing these lines here that as the pipes go further back, the angle that you're going to see is going to be different as well. So they're going to change direction. Refining that helmet a little bit more. You know what? I've just had a thought. Is on his helmet, just as a fun thing, is a no rebel, no Jedi Order or whatever logo. Let me make a note of that quickly. No Jedi logo. Just as a sort of a statement. That'd be quite cool, wouldn't it? Might work. Just angling that visor thing a bit more. Not visor, I don't know what you call it, but it's like I guess it's sort of a radar type thing. What do you call it? Some form of I don't even know. I can't even find the right words. Like a targeting system or something to that effect. See, this is the fun. This is the fun bit. Just trying to really add some severe details on this character to give it some major personality. because once I get to the inking stage, which probably won't be this stream, in fact, I might finish this on Twitch tomorrow actually. So if you're on Twitch tomorrow, I might do this as part 2 tomorrow on Twitch. But if you happen to be around that area, when I do the inking in stage, that's when I'm going to put all the finer details and make it really stand out and really mean something, you know. See, like there, without planning it, I've got a little extra detail on the armament here, giving it more of an angled, more of a square kind of a hint to it. See, this bit could be like little sets of missiles or rockets or whatever. You know, rocket mounts. Oh, this guy's really starting to come alive now. He's really starting to feel like a more solid character. This is the best part of any kind of drawing. Painting's fine, but this is the bit I like the most. When you're really filling out the character you're drawing, that's when I get the most enjoyment. Because what I'm seeing now is I'm seeing how this character is really, how everything's fitting together. There's more detail. I'm solidifying a bit more, and even to the point of, you know, like with the one I did the last time I did this particular, you know, the last 4 Santa I did. I don't think I've managed to put quite as much solid detail on him. The detail on this guy is feeling a lot more substantial, for want of a better word. Which is awesome. So I'm really starting to fill out his uniform, which is great. So I didn't have that before. It was, although to be fair, it was a concept. When I did the previous one, it was just a concept. I hadn't even looked, you know, thoroughly at, okay, what's he exactly wearing, because we never got to that point, you know, because we put it to a vote. Basically, we put it to a vote of what pieces we were gonna, you know, what character we were gonna choose, and everybody chose. Those that voted chose the manga style, which is great. And now that's done, I've got to figure out what's the next, you know, what's the next iteration. And this one was one of my favorite ones that I liked in the piece. I'm liking how he's looking though. I'm definitely feeling it. Definitely feeling it. Right, now let's bring this armband on. But I'm thinking I need some kind of clip to show that he's had to fix it on. I'm even going to link that a bit to give it a bit more element. Oh yeah. Yeah. This guy is. I like him. Me likey. Me likey. Let's fill that thumb out a bit. So I do get very quiet when I'm in full concentration mode. So I apologize if I'm not saying very much. In fact, I'm thinking here, so an extra detail. So it's like almost like an extra belt or whatever. Now that I've got the lightsaber here, I need to make sure that I'm not darkening this too much. So I will need to bring this lightsaber in. I want to make sure that's looks balanced. There we go. Right. Right, what I'll probably do is I'll finish off today using my graph gear to get the really fine details in, and I'll call it a stream. But I think this has come off really well. At first, I didn't think it was going to match the picture I drew, but it is now starting to show the essence of this character that I had in my mind before the stream started. Yeah. Do, 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 do. I always like it when I get surprised at how it turns out, because sometimes you never never really know if it's going to work until you actually put the time in. But this has actually worked out really, really well. I really feel this has proven a worthy task today to try and come up with something a bit different, a bit new. Do the other leg. Oh yeah, I forgot to add that bit. Whoops. I also didn't put these segments in either. So I've got to make sure they go in now. Not the end of the world though. As long as they're in there. Yeah, it's been an interesting art journey of late. You know, definitely seen lots of improvements, especially in my anatomy. Still not perfect. I know that that some of you out there might be going, oh yeah, their arms too long. This is whatever. But looking at where I've come from and where I'm at now, you can see there's a difference. And got always be inspired and motivated sometimes to just keep going, because it's so easy, to look at somebody else and see where they're at and think, oh, I'm never going to get there and never going to get to that point. But the truth is, we all can. But because we don't believe it, or we doubt ourselves, and I know I'm speaking more for myself than anything else. We don't think we can really make it, but that's not true. When I look at my digital painting that I've been working on lately, I'm surprised that I'm at that level now. Because when I was in like the jazz competition, for example, some of the entries in there, like, my goodness, there's no way that I'd even have a look in. And for the most part, I was thinking, okay, the only way I'm going to even have a chance here is coming up with something that's more unique than everybody else's, and that's still the case. But I feel like now, I do feel I have more of a much better chance of, at the very least, having an impact and being noticed, whereas there's still a lot of work. Now, I don't know if anyone watching it is a fan of the Jazza channel, or Draw with Jazza, but I'm certainly excited about the current competition he's got at the moment, Isolation. I've got my concept. I've started working on it. I've already started painting it. I'm not going to reveal what I'm doing yet. You'll have to wait and see. You'll have to kind of come back and wait a little bit longer before you see my finished piece. But needless to say, I'm super, super happy with it right now. I think the concept I've got, it really works for me. It's different. It's hopefully unique. I don't I'm hoping that no one has thought of it. I mean, there's always a chance that somebody has thought of what the concept had. I'm not going to say again, like I said, I'm going to keep it under wraps for now. But I am really, really pumped for what it's going to be, and I just hope I can pull it off in terms of the feel and the emotions that I'm hoping to portray in the piece. But I'm super, super excited about this one. The last couple he's released, although I did sort of start, I wasn't really feeling them. And with my working full time and everything else, and the short deadlines, because even this one's quite short, 17th of May, which is a very, very short. I think it's probably the shortest deadline he's done for any of these competitions. Um, but the short deadlines made me realize, I had to sort of bow out of a couple of the more recent ones because just didn't have the time, and also the subject matter was not inspirational enough. But this one, isolation, is such a good subject. It's such a unique and interesting subject, and I've tried to think about, well, what will people. I say I'm not giving anything away, so you're gonna have to wait. But I'm thinking, what sort of ideas would people come up with, and how can I be different? How can I do something that's not been thought of? And I think I'm fairly satisfied that the idea I've come up with, I don't think anyone's going to do. I might be wrong, but I'm hoping I'm not wrong. Right, I'm just putting the shade on so I know it's a saber. I mean, I know it's a saber, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Okay. I'm really pleased with this one, and I'm glad I went for a different pose as well. I didn't just do the same one I did before. So yeah, beg my pardon. All right. Okay. Let's go and get the big guns now. Just a quick sip of this. So I'm going to spend the next 15-20 minutes lining, doing some additional lining. So 1 second. Where is my bag? Right, here we go. Okay, bit of noise next door. Not quite sure what that's about, but never mind. It's all right. It's all good. Although to be fair, one of my neighbours has got a kid. Got a kid as well, so it could be a kid just making a lot of racket. It's fine though. I'll tell you one thing that I've been finding as well is I've been getting more used to doing what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Doing inking in via the computer. You know, like Photoshop or whatever. Was never really a fan of doing that. I prefer inking in my drawings generally, as a rule. But I'm slowly getting used to doing it by doing it digitally. Drawing digitally in terms of just now what's the logo? So it's that. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud here. Sorry, just concentrate to make sure this logo looks right. There we go. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So digitally. Still not really feeling that. I definitely don't feel sketching digitally is my thing really. But drawing, inking in, I can see myself doing that a lot more frequently because I think inking in artwork is just basically lining something you've already drawn, and I prefer doing it, manually. Because I've got instead of having pencil drawing, I've got this nice straight outlined piece. But the one thing about digital drawing is you can carry on make it. Once you've aligned it, once you've inked it in, if it's not straight, you can go back in and you can erase it. You can't erase inking in lines. So the one key advantage of doing things digitally. But sketching digitally, I just find it just doesn't inspire me. I just don't really enjoy it, and I find it just takes me longer. Whereas if I just do like what I'm doing today, I can get from A to B a lot quicker. But once it's there, inking in digitally is a completely different ball game. Now this character is really coming along quite nice. I'm super pleased with how it is at the minute. But as I said, I'm going to finish. I think I'm going to do part 2 of this tomorrow on Twitch. But I will post the end video on here afterwards. Doofus is quite a successful project today. So at this stage, I'm really thinking, refining everything. I'm even adding little extra details as well. So it's all part of just really filling this piece out. I know Boba Fett has it, and I'm going to give him the same thing that Boba Fett has. He has this little light fitting on here with numbers or whatever. So I might as well keep that as a Mandalorian thing. So thinking about the last one I did, the funny thing is I thought I did a lot of detail on the last uniform. I thought I really pulled the boat out with them in terms of just trying to make a costume look really detailed. And I have to say, in fairness to myself, I've not been particularly good with costumes. Not been very creative in terms of just inventing a costume that's different and new and got things going on with it. But the last few pictures I've been doing, the last few sort of ideas I've had, I definitely feel like I've started to be more, just add more construction in my costumes to give them a bit more personality, a bit more effort on the detail. Because even the ones where I did do some detail on it, it just felt like I was just putting lots of little bits of detail and not really thinking very specifically about, well, what detail should I include? What should I actually put on this particular person? And how would it fit? But now, I'm much more conscious about, well, does that fit? Does that work with this part of the uniform? Does it not? So there's a lot more. In short, there's a lot more consideration that I put into these things than I used to, and it's been a real, it has been really helpful just to think about, does that work? Does it not work? And so at the end of this stream, I will show you again the one I did last time, and you can hopefully see that there's even in the level of detail on this guy, it's vastly different. There's a lot more going on with this character. I mean, to be fair, he had more detail anyway, but compared to the other guy, I thought I had lots of detail on it, but he really doesn't. In the grand scheme of things, he really doesn't have that much detail, really. The older fella, the manga one, is the one I'm referring to. But it's just really a show of where things have changed. It's all a learning curve, and it's all about growth. Growth artistically. You know. This will probably get muted on the video, but you can enjoy it while it's there. I didn't like this version of the music song when I first heard it. I was like, oh, really? You've just discoed out the Star Wars tune. But, there you go. But I guarantee it's going to get muted. But obviously, if I get a strike, it's being removed. I'll probably have to take it off anyway. Right. Well, it makes sense to have a Star Wars theme in this video anyway, doesn't it? Even if it does get muted. If it doesn't, if it lets me keep it on, then I'll keep it on. Because I don't, if someone else gets the credit for the adverts, I'm fine with that. I'm not getting, well, for starters, I'm not getting ad revenue anyway, so it's not a big deal yet anyway. Once I reach that point, then obviously I'll need to think about that and get rid of it straight away. But here it comes. Oh, excuse me. It's that bit that I didn't like about this tune. The actual dance part was alright. It was all that silly laser music I didn't like. But I don't mind it now. I've kind of gotten used to it over the years. Diddly-da. Now, one thing I will do was when I paint the the lightsaber this time. Oops, keep hitting the mic, camera. I will paint the whole saber, not just the segments. One of the mistakes I always seem to do when I'm doing these things is I paint what I can physically see, and if it's hidden by a hand, I'll paint behind the hand. But I'm learning that it's better to paint through because you can always cover it up. If that makes sense. Okay. Again, I'm in that concentration mode. Because this part is quite fiddly. Yeah, but I will need to stop fairly soon. So when I do the other guys, say in this set, there were 6 Force Hunters concepts I did. One of them was the manga one, which I've already completed, painted, and everything else. Which there are videos for that if you want to watch either the stream or the speed art video. I think one of them is at least on Premiere, on a Premiere at some point. And the others, this is the first one of the others that I've done. So I will eventually do all 6 at some point. That's sort of the goal anyway, time permitting. But this is number 2 of the goal. It's actually number 2 in the set, but there's 6 different versions, and I think they're all got their own different merits about them, which is why I want to kind of eventually do all of them. But I'm going to do them one by one. I'm not going to try and do all 6 straight away and try to squeeze it all in. I'm going to finish this one, get him coloured in at some point. Don't know how soon. I'm going to try and do it before the next Star Wars film come out, but we'll see. we'll see what happens. But yeah, I want to try and get all 6 all finished, so I can move on to other projects. But I've got so many other projects going on at the moment, commission work, plus my own artwork I need to do, and I've been working on some of the some redrawings of my Jora Jazza entries as well. Currently, I'm sort of finalising the Colour of Lost piece, which I need to go back and do some more work on. I've only got one aspect, well, not one aspect, but one character left to repaint, and then finish off the background a bit. But that was a project that I thought was going to be a quick fix, because I never finished the actual entry piece that I sent in. But as I did it, especially with what I've learnt in terms of digital painting over the last few years, it became a much longer and more involved project than I had intended it to be. Right. Right, now this bit's taking a bit longer than I thought it would, but determined to at least get the line work finished. But I will be finishing fairly soon. Again, if you're watching for the first time and you like what you're seeing, please feel free to click the like button and share this with any Star Wars fans you think that might enjoy this process. If you do want to see more, just click the subscribe so you know when there's a new video available. And if you really like this thing and you want to know the minute a videos becomes available, or indeed like today I'm live, just click the little bell and it will send you a little notifications in advance. Particularly when it comes to streaming, the streaming side of it will give you notification in advance so you know that I'm here ready for you guys, and you can join in. But I do appreciate you hanging around while I do this particular piece. So it's not finished, not done yet. I've got some work more still to do on it. Certainly I've got to colour it in, but that's going to come much later. I don't know how soon I'm going to take before I colour it in, but it will happen. Just question of when. But I don't want to overload myself with too many colouring in projects at the same time. I want to make sure that I finish at least one, or get it to the point where I can, if I need to take a break from a current project I'm working on and do something new, then at least I've got something to work on in the background. Right, slight change to the design on that. Just to make it fit more with the angle. Right. But yeah, I'm seriously going to need to stop very soon, because my eyes are starting to get tired. and I'm getting kind of hungry as well. But I think it's been a very good session today. I'm glad I got that hand at least looking somewhat how I want it. So whether I think it's perfect or not, I don't know. But I'm happy enough with it to leave it be. Right, so let's just finish off the coddy piece, the leg, and then we'll be done. But I'm seriously pleased with how the uniforms come about. Very, very pleased. And I'm going to watch Immortal Engines as well tonight, I think. Actually, I'm going to watch Gotham first because I think my eyes need a rest anyway. So I'll watch Gotham instead, and then once I've had a rest, if it's not too late, I'll watch Immortal Engines. If not today, although I might watch. But I really want to see that film. I've been eager to see that since it came out. It's a shame it didn't do that one in the cinema, but I'm still going to enjoy it. I'm confident that it's going to be enjoyable enough. But yeah, it's just a bit of a shame they didn't do that fantastic. But then again, I think it was competing against some of the bigger players. That's the problem when you got a film that no one knows yet, no one's aware of yet, as to whether it is any good. And I'll say this: I'm one of these people that I might read a review of the movie, but I won't take any notice of it. Because sometimes these reviewers are, they've got to say something negative about a movie, and sometimes in my opinion anyway, they can often be unjustified. Because what they say is great and a brilliant movie, personally I find it totally boring. I'll be honest with you. Nearly every film that they say, oh, this is a really good film because of this, that, and the other, I watch it and I fall asleep. So, I'm not going to say which film it was, but there was one movie I literally daydreamed. It was so boring, even though it won awards and Oscars and all that, and it even had a tune. As I said, I'm not going to say which one it is. It even had a very famous tune that went to like #1 in the charts or whatever, and everybody uses it all the time. But the film, it was so slow and boring. I literally daydreamed through the whole movie, and I don't, I sat through it. I don't remember a darn thing about it because I just switched off. I don't even remember switching off, but it happened. All right, folks. Right, so that's that. Let me quickly just show you where we're at. So just to recap where we were from. So let me bring this up a bit. So we started off with these characters. These were the 6 characters, and the first one we did was this guy here, the manga style, and he turned into this fella, which I was happy with. There's a lot of detail on this. I can't say there's not a lot of detail. There's quite a bit of detail on it, and the anatomy was relatively okay, but there are definitely flaws with it in terms of the posture, the pose. But I particularly like the way the face was, and the basic structure of the body felt quite meaty, and that was told into a full color picture. And today, this is the one from today. So it's the same type of character, but just different way of portraying him. But I'm really satisfied that that this new guy has, well, for one thing, the posture is definitely better. The pose and posture is definitely better. There's more motion going on there. Things seem to fit a bit more correctly. Still areas for improvement. I'm not going to say I'm perfect and I'm anything like that because I'm far from it. But as a picture on the whole, I am very very satisfied with it. I'm particularly pleased that I've got a different pose from the original, and the level of detail. I was able to fit things in that worked. It wasn't me trying to think of what can I put into this and make this. What can I add to this costume that's going to make it look cool. I actually was, as I was going through, I was thinking, oh, that can work, that can work, that can work, that can work. So that's how I went through it. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate you taking the time. I hope to see you on the next stream. And again, tomorrow I will be on Twitch around about 4 p.m. UK time to ink this guy in. And if, and I say if, the system allowing it, I might even try and use Photoshop. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm not making any promises on that. But we'll certainly try and ink it in at least. And if we get time, I might even do another one. But we'll see how it goes. Also, there is a video that I released today from the Star Wars Day. The Force, May the 4th be with you. Released earlier this morning, or this afternoon. So do feel free to watch that. And there may be one tomorrow. So just keep your eyes open. Thank you. And again, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day. Have a lovely evening. And until the next time, I'll be seeing you. Bye-bye.